Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you doing? My name is Dara Oladapo, and this is This Dev Life. With me today, I have joining me, and it's a bit of an announcement. My co-host, his name is Lawrence. You've met him before. He's been with us for about I think 3 episodes on this podcast in the past. So if you missed that, go back and have a listen on those episodes. So it's gonna be the co-host from now on, probably mainly the face you'll be seeing from the here on because I'm not retiring, but I'm sort of taking the backseat on the podcast, trying to work on the administration and getting things sorted out because I know we've been lacking on this podcast in terms of getting content out as consistently as possible. So I want to get things organized properly. So Lawrence is gonna be the host. From now on, I'm just gonna be the sidekick. Lawrence, how you doing? How do you feel about that?
Uh, Too much responsibility.
With a lot of power comes great responsibility. I think that's how they say it. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's
With great
the
power comes great
Spider-Man.
responsibility.
That's the Spider-Man speech.
Yeah, you got great power, so you gotta have great responsibilities, and we are endowing this responsibility of being the This Dev Live show hosts on you. Are you a software developer or engineer? Do you want to provide feedback on products created for developers? User Interviews is looking for quality participants to sign up for user studies. This is a great opportunity to help shape the future of software development. Your feedback will help developers create better products that meet your needs. You also get to earn money while doing so. What are you waiting for? Sign up today and help make a difference in the software development community. Head on to zen.ai /the dev life to get started. That is zen.ai /THEDEVLIFE to get started. If you're signing up directly on the website, remember to use the coupon code ThisDevLife. That is THISDEVLIFE. The link will also be provided in the show notes for you. Have you found the tweet?
Yep, looking
The
at the
tweet,
tweet
if I
now.
can remember, I think I have it. It's still in my head. It's more like dear woman, software developer, woman being tester, upcoming. You should make the official documentation your Bible.
Yes.
Why did you make that tweet?
Yeah, actually, this tweet was directed at upcoming developers mainly, and it came from a place of I was having a conversation with an upcoming developer at the time,
Mhm.
and we were having a conversation about a specific technology, and going back and forth technical arguments, and the person had certain views that were sort of like opposing what we had in the documentation, if I remember correctly. And so I was trying to make them understand that, look, you say this isn't possible, but it's already there. It's in the documentation. And they kept on referencing a specific article that they were looking at and said, you know what? I used in this article, this person said something different. However, like in the documentation, that doesn't exist anymore. Like we had moved beyond that. Um, and I've had these kind of conversations with like certain junior engineers, not just that one person. And I then came to that, conclusion, and then I made that tweet. And if you look at the reply section, uh, people had like follow ups on that specific tweet. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that this person was mentioning someone's article as their reference point, whereas your reference point was the official
The documentation.
documentation.
Yeah.
So where does that put content creators like me or other people who write blog posts about these topics from day to day?
Try to update your blogs. Yeah. It helps
Definitely.
junior developers. God damn it. Those people always have, like, it's great when you look at a blog post to start using something. It's like a
Mhm.
quick start guide. The problem is getting hooked and using that as your source of truth, right? I think junior developers and people coming up need to be taught how to read and understand the docs, because I can understand the docs can get intimidating when you start to use it because there's too much technical stuff you don't understand. And some of these content creators like bring all of these things from the blog, from the documentation into a blog, and try to make it easy for people to understand. That's a good start point. It's a good, quick start. It's a good springboard. The problem people have is staying hooked to that and not moving on from it.
Mhm.
And so maybe for content creators, try to update your blogs and make sure like you have the latest, thing from the documentation in there. So upcoming developers or even experienced ones that are looking at it are looking at the latest stuff every time. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. And I think it makes a lot of sense. So let's assume I wrote a blog post 4 years ago. I normally do not expect the technologies I used then to be the same way they are today, especially in
Exactly.
this fast-paced world we live in, where things just move pretty fast. What you know today might be invalid in the next 2 hours
Yeah.
because there's some new version to it. I make this joke. Everything just pops up like JavaScript frameworks. And this is not a pun to JavaScript, to be honest. I didn't mean it a bad way, but it's the truth. Like, we have new things, new ways of doing things popping up from time to time. And a blog post I wrote 4 years ago might not be the valid one. But I think if as a beginner, if as an upcoming person, yes, I would probably get started quickly with someone's blog post or a YouTube video or whatever content they put out there, or a course on Pluralsight, Udemy, and all these training platforms. And
Hmm.
then as I grow, once I pass the bit where I'm done with the basic stuff, I get my project done. I should go back to correlate that with what the official vendor of the product that I'm using actually says. For example, let's assume I'm a blog writer and I said, oh, a plus b equals c is the right way to declare a variable. And then the official documentation says c is equal to a plus b is the right way to declare it. Maybe both work, but then in the future, the one way might be deprecated, or there might be a better way of doing it. Maybe c equals a divided by b now. So yes, I've gone to the tutorial, it works, but then what is then the standard that the vendor is making? I think it makes sense in that way. And what then? Now, I know your tweet was to upcoming developers, but then for us who are not exactly upcoming, I know we are still upcoming. I know I'm still upcoming.
We're always learning. Everyone is always learning, right?
Yeah, where we mostly do not go for. Yeah, we still read the blog posts because they get us quick insights. I want to do this. Maybe the shadow documentation is not the way. Maybe it's too long for me to read at that point in time. I just want to get it quickly done. Maybe,
Hmm.
for example, I just go Stack Overflow, copy, paste, it works, rename the variables, I'm fine. Um, how then would you advise the more experienced person to ensure, and I think this also goes to products, and I think we're having a discussion just before this recording about companies that build API products, like having proper documentation also helps. So, what if a product does not have the right documentation, or the documentation is actually, pardon my use of word now, is shit?
Yeah.
How then would you advise that scenario? And then someone has a blog post that is actually the right way things are supposed to work.
Yeah. So that's why it's not like, how do I put this? Um it's not a one size fits all kind of situation in the long run, because I have been in that situation before. I've absolutely forgotten this technology, but there was this specific tech. I was trying to integrate one time into an application I was working on. Um, and the documentation was almost, you know, inexistent. I think I remember the company, but I can't mention because contracts. Um, they had a documentation, okay, but it wasn't well written and it was difficult to follow. And there are situations like this, and then you have to go to maybe like a blog post or a YouTube video and try to see. Sometimes, like this specific documentation didn't have ways to integrate at all, right? The documentation didn't say how the integration is going to start. Like, what's the beginning? How do we begin the integration till the end? It's not clear, you know. And then I had to use videos and
Mm-hmm.
blogs and see go into. I think I used Reddit at some point, you know, some Reddit threads, and people were talking about like, yo, these people have really bad documentation, and this is how I got it working. Yeah, there's situations like that, right? And that's why I say it's not like a one size fits all. So sometimes you have these situations where the documentation is just bad and you don't have an option, right? So in that kind of situation, you just go ahead with the blogs, right? Implement, and then the parts where, you know, after the implementation is done, there are specific parts of this application that still are documented, so you can always cross reference and be sure that you have the latest stuff going, because certain errors might pop up, and it's because you're using like an obsolete method
Yep.
and it's not there anymore, right? Then you have to go to the documentation and then see what the method is this time, you know. But if you are looking to integrate and you don't have the documentation isn't clear about that, this is something that happens with certain docs or technologies or whatever. So yeah, it is a situation that can happen, right? In that kind of situation, yeah, maybe not the docs first. I mean, always not the docs first. You always want to use a blog or a video or something. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you have to stick with that blog for a while, you know, as opposed to, blogs and then going to the documentation as the source of truth. But when the documentation is lacking, you have to hold on to some post or video as a source of truth for a while, but always try to cross reference with the docs to be sure that whatever it is they have available is what you're using, to prevent having issues with that technology. And please, if you have technology you're giving out to the public, write good docs. People like people use them. We like docs. Please make your docs readable and useful for developers.
Yeah, definitely. I think it makes sense, and of course, make your docs usable. And for those of us who write content, and I'm going to confess to you, it's not easy to make content to update blog posts. It's
Yeah.
not easy at all. I don't think I've written a blog post in a long while. I will get back to it pretty soon, I hope. But then when I just want to update something, I'm like, oh, this documentation has changed. There's a lot to change. I just give up and say, yo, guys, just go read the docs. I'm done writing the stuff. So it's understandable that blog posts might not be updated. Yeah, for those content creators who actually do update their blog posts with the latest content, thank you very much. We love you. Our heart goes out to you. Thanks for all you do in the developer community. We appreciate you. We see you and we love you. Indeed we do, because it saves a lot of time
Yeah.
to know that I can quickly go to someone's blog post, I read something up, apply the principles, and it works, rather than having to read a lengthy documentation about how it actually works. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And then of course I'll go back to read the docs later when I have time. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense, and I think that wraps up the episode for today. It was just supposed to be a short discussion to just bring the podcast back online, which we have done now, and we're going to be posting pretty frequently. And the next host face you'll actually be seeing will be Lauren's face. He'll be bringing some exciting
Oh
guests. It's
no.
gonna be your face. You're gonna see some pretty exciting guests on the show. We have some topics lined up already, and we'll have more coming. And
Hmm.
we'll have your favorite techie, your favorite developer coming on the show. And of course, if you have developers and people you want to come on the podcast for us to interview and have some chat with them, and maybe if you're a developer and you want to feature as a guest on the podcast, please feel free to put your reach out in the comments, and we will definitely reach out to you and get something scheduled, and then we will have some fun discussions, which ideally should be fun. It will be
Yeah.
fun because this dev life is all about talking about developer life, challenges we face every day, and how we solve those challenges from time to time. Until we come your way again with another episode of This Dev Life, stay safe and goodbye.
Goodbye.